asking what's the latest on this, just when they're looking to get these on. On this map.
No, they can't rezone that. They want us to, the things that they look like things. This is the only thing, this is the only thing that you can't do. This is residential. They don't go residential to commercial.
They're switching to commercial.
The things that neighborhood business, neighborhood business zoning, and this is the only thing that's what? Yes. Yeah, they own both things.
So when are they trying to change this ordinance?
This, from neighborhood business to commercial.
So,
allowed at commercial.
Yeah,
so is it above the dam, they're not looking to make that?
all this up here
And that was the
is in
commercial?
is residential.
They're not looking to make it commercial?
Oh, I don't know, I don't think so. It's not the things that,
I mean, it wasn't clear. Why? Because that changes. In your explanation, that section is already neighborhood business. What's the change going to do for that? They don't already?
7 o'clock, everyone. Tuckerborough Planning Board in session this day. March the 5th. We have a scheduled appointment before us. Matt C. Young, Revocable Trust. Site plan review and change of use converting the portion of an NHB district from residential to retail sales customer services. Before I go on, we're going to make note that George Madoff is going to be a voting member tonight. He's been an alternate, but tonight he will be a voting member. As you know, Matt is recusing himself because he is the applicant. I'm the vice chair. Tony Triola is my name, and we'll move forward. After reviewing the application, we deem it complete and ask the board for a motion to accept jurisdiction of the application.
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Applicant, Matt, will you present the application?
So my name is Matthew Young. I know most of you still. I'm going to stand back here just so I can point. So basically, what we have is this 3 lots right here, which is next to our existing showroom. This is a previous survey that was prepared by one of the previous owners, actually Mary, who's here. And I did receive permission from White Mountain Survey to use it just for representing how the existing land looks. But I just want to be clear that this is not represented by White Mountain Survey or White Mountain Survey.
Matt, can you talk a little louder? Can
Yeah.
you turn that way?
Sure, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
I mean, try to wait.
I know, it's hard to point and talk.
So just to be clear, this is a previous survey that was prepared by White Mountain Survey. It was actually done by Mary probably about 10 years ago. And I did receive permission to use it from White Mountain Survey, but just to be clear, this is not prepared for that purpose by White Mountain Survey, and it has nothing to do with White Mountain Survey. So there's 3 lots in question. In total, they're about 5 acres. There is 1 lot here by the road, which is the house you would see beside the river right here, and the property that is next to our existing showroom. There's a small sliver of a lot on the other side of the river. That's called Stockbridge Island traditionally. It's about 20 feet roughly wide and maybe 50. And then there's this larger rear lot right here. Probably the vast majority of the rear lot through this section is wet. And it's more than likely undevelopable. The neighborhood business zone is this yellow line right here. The neighborhood business zone lies approximately 300 feet in from Route 109. We have Route 109 here, and then the neighborhood business zone runs inward through most of Melbourne Village for about 300 feet, and then the zoning allows you to move it an additional 20 feet, so it makes it approximately 320 feet in from the line. So it encompasses almost all of this lot here, the very corner of this back lot, right here, and the Stockbridge Island lot right here. The vast majority of this back here is zone medium density residential. We're proposing nothing in that lot, asking for nothing in that lot. Likewise, Stockbridge Island, we included in the application just because there's a garage there and we might park a lawnmower or something along that lines. And but it's, you couldn't do anything with it. It has no access. It has, you can't leave a 20-foot setback for residential, abutting commercial properties. So it's, again, fairly unusable. So mainly what we are looking to do is we have our existing showroom here where we display boats. We would like to take down this fence that's right here and display boats on this front half of the property right here. The house is not being used for retail sales, it's being rented out to one of my employees and his wife. We're not proposing any material changes at this time to the property. We're not proposing any additional parking lots, any driveways, any nothing. We literally want to take pontoon boats and plop them on the ground right there and then sell them. In the next year and a half or so, we will start working with the engineer. We will probably develop this front half with some bluestone parking lots just to make it prettier. So the boats sit on bluestone. At that time, we'll have to come back to the planning board again because the site plan will be changed. And at that time, it'll be a fully engineered plan with drainage and provisions for storing water, such and so forth. Right now, because we're not making any changes at all to the property, I'm asking for a number of waivers. Again, this does not have anything to do with me trying to get around anything. It's literally because we're not changing the property, and many of the requirements are, you know, please show your stormwater retention for the parking lot you put in. Well, there is no parking lot, so I can't show that. Other than that, there is an existing driveway, which is right here. I applied to the DOT for a driveway change of use permit to change it from residential to commercial. DOT did grant the permit. And they came out and did a site walk on the driveway as well. Other than that, other than probably some tree pruning, some cleaning up of the lawn, you know, we removed and are continuing to remove some stuff that was there. Just, you guys all knew, right? He's got stuff. But that's really all we propose to the property.
Can I ask you a question?
There'll be a public set, well,
No,
you go, you can, sure.
you're saying initially what you want to do is just display boats on dirt ground?
Yeah,
And then you said bluestone, you'll have a bluestone display parking lot kind of thing?
just like next door, yeah.
Well, okay.
I mean, next door's, you know, there's pavement up the middle and then there's bluestone on the side. It
Just
looks
wanted to
nice.
make sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's not land, that's legal.
No, we'll have to come back.
Right, that's about a year and a half from now.
Yeah, it would take me a year to get an engineer.
That's not what you're asking for now.
No,
Right.
no, we're literally just looking to use this square right here to display boats. I'm asking for a number of waivers. Again, this has to do almost entirely with the fact that we are not changing anything. Waiver 1, the following existing site data shall be prepared and stamped by a New Hampshire licensed land surveyor or registered professional engineer. I asked for a waiver for this because we are not changing anything. This obviously was prepared by one, but again, we're not representing this as such. Existing conditions data, the plan of the site showing existing natural features including water courses and water bodies, trees and other significant vegetation, topographic features, and any other features which should be considered in the site design process. Again, we're not changing anything or proposing any changes. Existing grades, drainage system, structures, topographical contours at intervals not exceeding 2 feet with spot elevations where foot grade is less than 3%. Again, we are not proposing any changes to grade or drainage or any such changes. The shape, size, height, and location of existing structures located on the site within 200 feet of the site. While these are shown, again, this is not a survey that was prepared for this purpose. We are proposing no changes, so we respectfully ask for that requirement to be waived. Existing conditions data, man-made features such as but not limited to existing roads, stone wall, landscaping features, structures indicating which of such features are to be retained and which are to be removed or altered. Again, we're proposing no changes. Abutting properties with approximate locations of structure thereon, including access roads. Again, they are shown, but we are proposing no changes and respectfully to be waived. The size and location of all existing utilities, including but not limited to wells, sewage disposal systems, and utility poles located on the site within 100 feet of the site, and location and size of existing utilities which the connection is planned. Again, we're not proposing any new utilities or having any new utilities, so we would ask that would be waived. Soil map showing all soil types and delineating wetlands as defined by Tuftonboro zoning ordinance. Again, I'm not proposing any changes, so I again respectfully ask for that to be waived. The soil types are shown, but again, was not prepared for that purpose. Proposed plans, site data for the proposed development shall be prepared by a licensed land surveyor, professional engineer, and/or architect as appropriate, registered in the state of New Hampshire. Again, we're not proposing any changes or parking lots or any modifications to the property, therefore it's very difficult to show plans for. The size, the location, size, direction of travel, curving, paving, and radii of all streets, driveways, access ways, and sidewalks within the site in its relationship to the off-site system. Again, we're not proposing anything new, and we would respectfully ask for that to be waived. The size, location, and layout of all on-site parking and loading facilities. Again, there's nothing proposed for or asked for, and we ask that be waived. The size and location of all public and private and utilities, including water lines, sewage facilities, gas lines, power lines, telephone lines, fire alarm connections, and other utilities. Again, we're asking for no changes and would ask for that to be waived. Storm drainage plan performed by a professional engineer registered in the state of New Hampshire, including a plan for the retention and slow release of stormwater where necessary, together with supporting calculations. Again, there are no proposed changes to this property, and we would ask that be waived. The location, type, and size of all proposed landscaping and screening, as well as a plan for the retention of existing significant natural features within spaces, green areas, etc. on the site. Again, there are no proposed changes, so I would ask that be waived. The location, size, and design of proposed signs and other advertising or instructional devices. I'm not proposing any signs, so again, I would ask for that to be waived. The location, type, and design of outdoor lighting. Again, I'm not proposing any outdoor lighting or changes, so I would ask that be waived. Construction details including but not limited to pavement, walk, step, curbing, drainage structures, and erosion and sedimentation control techniques. Again, I'm not proposing any changes, so I would ask that be waived. And any other exhibited data that the planning board may require in order to evaluate adequately proposed development, including but not limited to calculations relating to stormwater runoff, information on composition and quantity of wastewater generated, information on air, water, or land pollutants discharge, estimates of noise generation. Again, I'm not asking for any changes to the property, material changes, so I would ask that be waived. And lastly, proposed plans, traffic impact analysis. All proposed commercial, industrial, or residential development shall be reviewed by the planning board to ascertain that adequate provisions have been made by the owner and/or its authorized agent for traffic safety. To facilitate this review, the planning board may require the developer to provide a traffic impact analysis due to the size, location, of traffic generating characteristics of the development. Due to 1, traffic circulation and access, including adequacy of adjacent street intersections, entrance and exits, traffic flow, site distance, access statistics, curb cuts, turning lanes, existing or recommended traffic signalization. 2, pedestrian safety and access. 3, off-street parking and loading. 4 emergency vehicle access, 5 off-site improvements necessitated to be constructed by the developer. Again, there are no proposed changes physically to the property, only the use, so I would ask that. All I got. I think there's 17. 17, I think it is.
Okay, I'm going to open the meeting up to the public. Anybody who wants something to say, please state your name and address. The meeting is now open to the public.
My name is Mary Hunter. I live on 3 New Road. I was the former owner of this property for almost 25 years. I did have this survey done. There was 2 reasons for it. And one was because the septic system, this subdivision that I had done was actually, it used to be 3 lots, and I had it made into 2 lots. And I had it done because the septic system was, for the house, was on all 3 lots. And when I was going to get ready to sell the property, I wanted the septic system to just be on 1 lot and not on 2 lots. The other thing that I did was put in the road, the second driveway. That was for safety reasons, and because pulling out from in front of the house or the driveway that's next to the house, it was lots of times a blind driveway, and pulling out from that was not necessarily safe, and it was safer for people to park in that other driveway because of the sight view from that place. So and if the house was in neighborhood business, and that would make it so that the property line between the 2 pieces of property was about where the neighborhood business would end, the zoning for neighborhood business would end. I tried to do it like that so that it made sense. The driveway was put in also because that historically the house had been a general store and a telephone company and the post office. And I thought, maybe a new owner would be interested in using it for a small business or offices or whatever, and it certainly would be better parking up on the side than it was trying to park in front of the house or in the driveway. That being said, there have been a number of changes in the last 5 years that I'm very concerned about, and one is a big environmental issue. When I lived there, I lived by myself, and for the most part, and I was very conscious of the use of water, and the new owners that had it for the last 5 years did a lot, used maybe 4 or 5 times as much water as I did. So therefore, the septic system for that property has failed. And if you ever walked by that house when the previous owners were there, you could smell the septic system. I even could see where the septic system, the leach field was leaking down through the stone wall that is between the little yard and field and next to the house where the driveway is. And I don't think I need to tell anybody that that property is right on the river that directly goes into Lake Winnipesaukee. And I think that no matter what before anything is done there, that the septic system needs to be addressed and taken care of. And I don't know whose responsibility that is, or if that's something that you have to take into consideration or not, but I would really seriously like to bring it to the attention of the board. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak?
Karen Granger, I'm a butter, I live on Mill Pond Drive, this is my property right here. My only concern is, this is residentially zoned, and we're coming here to change it to consumer retail sales. And I don't know why, because he says he's not gonna do anything back here. So I don't know why we need to change it.
That little corner right there.
But when I was reading the zoning things, you have 20 feet that you can do with what you want.
Yeah, that puts that little corner of the lot.
Yeah?
In the very corner of that lot is in the NHB.
Okay.
So even though it's just that little corner, I still have to list it on the application.
Because my concern is you change this now to consumer retail sales. You say you don't have any plans at this time, but our concern is not at this time. It's later. You know, if it was just this, it's not a concern. So that's my question.
Hi, I'm Judy White. I'm Lumbia Butters also. So following on to what Karen just said, my question really is, if lot 55 has to be rezoned to retail consumer, then why can't we just simply draw the line so that basically you can have what you need from lot 55, put it into lot 23, and be done with that, and leave lot 55 as retail and consumer sales? As butters, we don't want to be abutting
Well, yeah, leave 55 as
leave
residential.
55 as residential and not retail consumer sales. So why can't we redraw the lines? So basically lot 23 has the 20 feet that he needs and not rezone lot 55.
May I answer that? So we're not rezoning the lot, or the whole lot.
Just speak up a little louder.
Yep, we're not rezoning. So this lot is listed on the application, but only because this line goes right through the corner of the lot. So the zone does not work, the neighborhood business zone in Melvin Village works off of feet from the road. It doesn't work off of lots. So you don't have a lot that is zoned commercial. The lot may lay in the commercial zone. So you have Route 109, and it runs in 300 feet. So whether that encompasses 2 lots, one behind another, or 1 lot that goes 1,000 feet back, it doesn't matter, you only get 300 feet. So it's not by the lot line, it's by that 300-foot line. So 300 feet off of the road, the entire way through Melvin Village.
So you're saying that lot 55 will not be rezoned?
Correct. Well, just the corner of it.
It certainly looks like that from the actual abutters letter.
Well, it's listed there because I have to.
Correct.
Because it's this little corner, so whether it's 1 square foot or the entire lot, I still have to list it and send you the list. Because this right here runs through that corner, right there. So I have to send you a notice and list it.
So why can't the lot line be redrawn?
Because that would be a boundary line adjustment.
Yes.
And it would probably cost $6,000 to do something that wasn't gonna change anything in the end. Because I'm not rezoning the whole lot. I'm only, and we're not actually rezoning, we're converting from one permitted use to another permitted use. So it's just that area right there.
So for the record, I'm Bennett White, 5 Mary Sue. Now, follow-up question on that, or for anyone really. If consumer and retail sales are that it is already an approved use of neighborhood business zone, so I'm still confused with what the ask is here.
Okay, good question. So within the neighborhood business zone, or any zone in the town of Tupperville, you have things that are permitted and things that are not. So in the neighborhood business zone, you can have a residential house. You can have any number of different types of businesses. But if you go from residential, and now you say, I would like to do a business, now you have what's called a change of use. So you have to file a site plan review, which is what we're here doing. And basically, that gives the town the opportunity to say, and the abutters, say, hey, this is what we're doing. What are the concerns? You know, is there a safety?
So it's not
concern?
automatic? Is that?
No.
Oh, okay.
I have to go and do exactly what I'm doing, saying, this
Thank you.
is,
As I'm researching it, it seemed like it was just an automatic, like if it was already neighborhood business zone. I'm sorry, if it was, yes, a neighborhood, the NHB designation, and a permissible use is retail, and that it's okay. But you're saying that it's not.
It
You
is.
have- It's a permissible use, but you have to apply
you
to.
have to go and do
Thank you. That's
what we're doing.
It's a change of use. You're going from residential to retail sales and consumer services.
So even if I had say I had an existing business, say I had, and I went back and said, all right, I'm not gonna have a restaurant anymore, I'm gonna have a bicycle shop. You still have to come, because you actually, one's a restaurant and one's a retail sales consumer services. So if you go to the table of uses and you get into a different column, you have to go back and go and say, hey, this is what I would like to do. Usually if we were building a structure, you know, say we were building another showroom. So that's retail sales and consumer services, you're allowed 5,000 square feet of retail floor space. Well, if we were doing that, then that would trigger a lot of other requirements, like you have to be able to approve parking spaces, things like that. You know, and that's what the board looks at when we're doing it. In this case, there's no real changes.
Okay, and just to follow up on that, there's several uses under commercial. If we're talking structures here, which is when you brought that up, made me think of this. If, like, for instance, storage shed is a use, which just requires if I understand it correctly, an exception,
Special exception.
special exception, okay? But
Which you've gotten before.
Retail.
You got earlier special exception,
On a different property.
but right alongside it.
Yep.
So it's in terms of priority. For instance, consumer and retail is not at all permitted in a residential zone area.
It's permitted as what they call a home occupation or a special home occupation.
And that's kind of where I'm getting at. In terms of, if you're building a storage unit for commercial purposes, wouldn't consumer services apply to the storage structure? Because it's a more stringent application. You see what I'm getting at?
If I was to build a storage building, I would need a special exception on any piece of property.
But wouldn't it be easier if it was already zoned commercial retail than if it was residential?
I can't put a storage building there.
Could you put a storage shed on 55?
Maybe, but I'm not asking for one.
I understand you're not asking for it this time,
I
but
mean, it would take an engineer to figure that out. I can tell you it's exceedingly unlikely.
I'm sorry, can you tell me what?
I can tell you it's exceedingly unlikely. They just don't work very well on this. You know, what we found with the flow of the business, they just don't work very well on this side of the road. It's really painful.
Okay.
Because you have to drive machinery back and forth and stuff like that. It's just, it doesn't work well. It's also exceedingly unlikely we would build one here. And that mainly has to do with changes to fire code, FC 303, which is fire code for those storage areas. So it's not likely. Could it happen? Yes, if I obtained a special exception, which I have not, and I wanted to do it, and I got one. Sure.
So I just want to understand, because if 55 is zoned medium residential,
Yep.
okay? And it is consumer and retail is not a permitted use. I mean, you cannot get that designation because it is residential.
Correct.
Right, I guess I'm looking at a scenario where you could build on 55.
With a special exception.
Well-
You can build on any lot in the town of Tuftonboro with a
But
special exception.
consumer retail services is prohibited, it's not, doesn't fall under exception.
You can't, you need a variance to have retail sales, consumer services in that. To go into medium density residential, you
Yeah.
do retail sales, consumer services.
Yeah.
You need a variance,
You need a variance.
And
So that's the end around in terms of.
which is the same conditions as a special exception, except you have to prove a hardship.
Uh-huh.
So to do that, you know, you need a variance to do retail sales, consumer
Thanks for
services.
that.
Which the chances of variances are normally granted for something like, I need to build a porch and I'm within 10 feet of my abutment because my house was built in 1812. They usually grant you a variance. So something like that, I don't know what the zoning board would do. I've never tried to get a variance for retail sales, consumer services, or those sort of things. So they're generally not that bad.
Couldn't the planning board just grant you a change to, commercial for that front lot and not have it have anything to do with the back lot? Couldn't they make that change?
The planning board can do whatever they want, but I don't see what it would achieve. I can't change the fact that this is 300 feet. I mean, it's,
And we have this application, we're dealing with this application, only this application. This application is requesting use for commercial uses, okay, retail sales and consumer services, not including motor vehicles and motor home sales, not exceeding 5,000 square foot of gross area per lot, okay? In that zone is NHB, which this is an NHB zone, is permitted. But we're only dealing with 300 feet. We're not talking about back lots, we're not talking about side lots. And if Matt Young chooses to do other things with those back lots, then he'll have to do the engineering, whatever's required, and come back to the board for approval for that. And so we're not talking about it, we're not dealing with those type of things right now. We're strictly dealing with what he's asked for. And what he's asking for is strictly in the 300-foot zone. That's it. Okay? And there's other things he's asked for here, which is some of the waivers, because he intends not to do those. So those could be conditions of this approval, if we do an approval. So that's all we're looking at right now. But I understand where you're trying to go with that. But they would have to, he would definitely have to come back.
Okay, our perspective, Judy White again, Mary Sue, our perspective is this abutters letter doesn't make that clear whatsoever. So when we all got this abutters letter, I mean, other people can speak, it certainly looked like lot 22 and lot 55 were included in
Yeah.
this change. So it is highly confusing, and it's also written two different ways. It's also written differently on Matt's site, his application on the front. So you can imagine how confused we are in that.
No, I
these other
understand, I just
two
want
are
to
included
clarify
in
that, that's
this.
what we're, he's not asking for approval of something else, but it's good that he explains it where it could go down the road if he chooses to do that.
Right, I think you need to give us some latitude here, because this is
Poorly written.
all we got.
Yeah.
I think the important thing is what gets recorded as, you know, with this, the site plan. So, like, I apologize, I wasn't smart enough to read 6 copies and 5 copies of the one, but can I have a,
Are you allowed to store those or trailers? Because that's what's going on. And that's great. But does that mean that
Folks, let's just be quiet right now and address this question that these people have. Anybody else? I'll state it once again, please, when you're addressing a question to Matt, say your name, address, and please be, the rest of you, please be quiet and listen up. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Richard Swain, I'm in the butter also.
Okay.
And in listening to what has transpired here, I have become a little bit confused between the consumer use and commercial use, and everybody knows what retail is. But as far as I'm concerned, either consumer or commercial use means boat storage. That's what I'm hearing. Because I don't know what else you would use all of this for. And if this will do it for you, I'm sure that some kind of accommodation could be made if you really wanted it to. Now, part of the reason I say that is because I've spent a lot of time in the boat business, and there's mucho dollars in boat storage. It's a return business. You don't have to do anything. Once you have your building, you don't have to do anything but winterize and store. It's big dollars for boat marinas, and I don't blame you for wanting it. That's what I foresee is going to happen here in the future if we just don't say, draw the line here. If you're not planning on doing that, not for what you've said.
I'm not proposing or asking for anything.
I understand that, but there's the future, and we own properties up here that are going to devaluate if and when you do that. And that's the concern, let's face it, that's the concern, that it's going to be a boat storage yard, and our properties will go. Not to mention we've enjoyed being secluded in Milton Village, is a nice quiet area on the pond.
But again, there's nothing proposed or asked for beyond 320.
I understand
The
that.
concern tonight, sir, is the application that we had before us.
Mhm.
That's our concern. That's what we're addressing tonight. I was trying to-
Well, I'm just speaking my piece, that's why I'm here. Okay? My understanding is if we go through with this, this is not going to work out well for the abutters. That's my point.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes?
Jill Cromwell, 8 Lanes End, Melvin Village. I'm not in the butter. I have just first a clarification again because I'm still confused. Is this application only asking for the 300 feet from the road or 320 feet be changed to commercial use?
Change of use, yes.
It already is commercial.
It's
It's
home,
already-
it's the business, whatever, home business. It is not requesting any change of designation to that other lot.
No.
Even though it's mentioned in this letter, it's not.
It is.
Well, see, that's the
Small
confusion.
portion of it. You can only go back 300 feet from the road from 109 to
Right.
300 feet back, 320 feet back. The rest of the lot will remain the same.
And that,
Can't
the
use
whole
the rest
board
of-
is in agreement with that, that whole
You
back
can't
section
go
is not
beyond
changing
320 feet.
from residential.
Yes.
That stays residential, okay.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure that was clear. So my concern is, to have a waiver of the traffic study, piece of this, to get boats, in and out, to store there, to display there in that area. That's, you know, in all of our town, that's probably the most dangerous area we have around the post office and the marina.
Matt, how long has that marina been in existence?
1954.
But now they're talking about storing big pontoon boats or displaying them up there. And is that the only access point in and out of that driveway? Because I understand there was a restriction from them not using your back road to go in and out of when they built the marina originally, so that they couldn't go in out
That's
that road.
correct.
So that's just a concern that I would have, is to the safety and congestion in getting through the road there. And that if you waive that condition, then it's not being studied at all or addressed, to know that it is a problem or not.
A driveway
Excuse me,
permit from the state, right?
this is supposed to be a public hearing, excuse me?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that's my concern, is that we don't know the impact of that.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
So the short answer there is that the planning board doesn't have the authority to deny the application based on the traffic on the state highway. That is solely the domain of the DOT, unless you have what's called a memorandum of understanding between the district office and the town. So traffic-wise, I mean, if we had a coffee shop there, it would probably have 10 times the traffic of, you know, us going in and out. Are pontoon boats and boats cumbersome coming in and out and around the road? Absolutely, they are. But, you know, I think in the past 20 years, there might have been one fender bender in that area that, you know, involving one of our trucks, but.
Two-time plow.
Oh, yeah, the plow at the bridge. The bridge one.
More likely it's the post office going through the fence.
Yeah, so, you know, DOT, again, they gave me a driveway change of use permit to change it from residential to commercial, and that's one of the things they look at. And they did do a site visit and come out and walk it.
But you're only addressing the going in and out with the pontoon boats and placing them there for display. What, are you gonna restrict any customers from driving in there and looking at the pontoon boats?
I hadn't planned to. There's probably not a lot. I mean, traffic-wise, I don't imagine that would be a very common event. Most people are gonna go to the showroom, because it's a big showroom, park there, and then we would walk over and look at the pontoon boats or whatever boat happened to park there.
But they're essentially, the driveway would be open for people to drive in there though.
Yes. The showroom's driveway isn't gated, so I don't, see, well, we never seem to have trouble, so.
I have a question. Joe Cavallaro, 10 High Street. Lot 23 is the lot we're talking about that has the 300-foot setback.
I think it's that one right there.
I think on mine is lot 23. And we're looking for another 20 feet, which encroaches on lot 55.
Yeah, so the lot goes 300 feet and the town, the neighborhood business zone goes 300 feet, and the town of Tuckenbury are allowed to move its own line.
Does that change the whole reclassification of lot 55 or just 20 feet? I'm sorry.
No, it's just the 20 feet.
Just 20 feet.
Just because you take a portion of a lot and it sits in a business zone, it's only that portion of the lot that
It doesn't change.
It doesn't change the rest of the lot. It doesn't say, hey, the little corners in here, you can use that whatever you want. It's still residential, it's still.
So you have boats stored right now in front of your showroom.
Yep.
So you're planning on moving boats, not in racks, to lot 23 to store on the ground in future pavers or bluestone or whatever.
Yep.
Are you planning on putting more racks on the property that you have now where you have the boats on paved area?
You mean the showroom property?
Showroom property.
No, you couldn't, it's maxed out.
But if you move the boats, it's not maxed out?
No, the coverage is maxed out. The amount of impermeable surface that you're allowed per lot, you couldn't add more.
Is it possible to go for a special permit or a variance to put more racks in that area?
Sure, I can get a special exception or
Yeah.
variance for the
So,
circus in there. I see
it
nothing.
sounds like we're just growing the showroom space and moving things around to build bigger pieces and parts.
Yeah, literally, I'm looking to use this area right here.
You're looking to grow. That's what this whole thing is about. It's looking to grow. Okay, there's people in this neighborhood that have lived here for a lot longer than I have. I've only been in this community for 10 years, okay? But I know many people in this area who have looked at this area, who have looked at that river. People stop on 110 High Street, they look, they take pictures of the blue herrings, and now we're looking for commercial growth in this area. I think this is about growth for one individual and not the people in the neighborhood. Thank you.
I absolutely agree, it's for us to grow. And it's a permitted use on that piece of property in that zone. Yes?
I guess, of concern to me
Say your
is,
name, please.
I'm sorry, Richard Swain, Butter. It's concerning to me that that's not the right way to put it. We'd be risking family legacies in our properties here for the sake of $6,000 or so you stated to do what you want to do here. It seems imbalanced to me. The people here who are abutters like myself should risk, how far in the future, I don't know, who can say how long our families are gonna own this. For that, it doesn't make sense to me. It's imbalanced. It doesn't make sense.
That line right there, the boundary line right here, has
Yeah.
absolutely nothing to do with this neighborhood business zone line right here. It's apples and oranges.
Well, what you were saying is that you need to include this in what you're looking for, but because this is part of this, you have to do all of it. You have to rezone all this.
I do not have to rezone all of that. I have to list it because the very corner of that lot,
When you say list it, what do you mean?
list it as one of the lots on the application.
To rezone.
The very corner of that lot lies in the neighborhood business zone. So if I want to use the neighborhood business zone, I have to list all of the lots that touch that line.
Which is all this.
No, it's that yellow line right there.
Seems to be before we were talking about this, now we're not. You're not
I
looking
have
to
never-
rezone any
I
of
have
this?
never been talking about
Even
this.
then, well, that's, I think we all agree that we're confused here.
It's-
So I might as well say what I think, that my confusion is.
100 feet.
I was hearing
Please help.
that in order for you to include this in your desires, you would also have to be rezoning this.
No.
Can I explain this to you? I'm the
Code officer.
I'm the code officer. Okay, see this yellow line right here?
Anybody else want to say that?
I've seen it.
Have you seen this right here?
No.
See that green line?
Mhm.
See the green? That's neighborhood business. Okay? All right? The red is medium density residential, MDR, okay? That'll never change, ever. The only thing that's gonna change here is you're allowed to move that line 20 feet. Okay, so see this yellow line here? See the NHB, that's neighborhood business, okay? This is MDR, okay? You're allowed to move that line 20 feet. Do you understand that?
I do.
So now that little corner of that lot is now in NHB, okay? You understand that?
Yes.
The rest of this is all MDR. It'll never change from MDR.
Why hasn't there been so much discussion about this? Paul?
There hasn't been. There's been discussion about this little piece right here. And that's part of this
Well,
lot.
I believe I heard other people talk.
Other people have been talking
about
about, but this
concerns-
application is
Well,
only about little
That's what
20
I'm
feet
saying,
right
it's
there.
been discussed.
It has been discussed,
Okay, we
but
just said
that's
it
not this
hasn't.
application.
Well, I'm saying it's been discussed, and that's why I wasn't here. Well, I know, you can walk away and be frustrated, but it's been discussed, people were concerned about, will we have storage buildings up in this area? It got discussed tonight, it was presented, somebody said it. And that's the concern of those who are, of us who are about, that's all I'm saying. I'd like to be clear on it because I don't want to feel like I'm giving something away without even knowing what we're talking about.
I just want to make sure everybody's clear. If you go to Route 109 and you walk 300 feet inwards from any lot in Milton Village, and you go another 20 feet, you're in the neighborhood business zone. If you take one more step, you're in medium density residential. Whatever the lots come together as, however they go, it doesn't matter. 300 feet, go another 20 feet, because you can move the line. That's all it is.
But I think there's Bennett White again. There's somewhat of a concern because if lot 24 where your showroom is medium density residential on the back, well,
Yes.
there's a very large storage facility there. So I think we're all sitting here going, how did that happen?
That happens through a special exception.
But that's where I'm still hung up, because if it's a storage shed for consumer services,
It's
which
not.
it
It's
is,
storage.
It's not, it's a different use. Storage buildings are a separate use in the town of Tuftonboro, and they're permitted through special exception only, which means before I could come to the planning board to say, I would like to build a storage building, I have to go to the zoning board, and I have to prove 5 criteria. I have to be able to prove that there's no detriment to property values, dust,
Hardship.
no, that's what there is. There's 5 very difficult criteria to prove. And then you would get your special exception, which would okay the use, and then I would again have to come to the planning board. And then I have to meet all the zoning requirements, which would be the drainage requirements, the drainage calculations, the setbacks, the, whatnot. When we got the storage building approved behind the showroom, again, I'm not asking for a storage building, nor do I have any plans for a storage building. But, we had to take the rear large portion of that lot. It's not 150 feet of woods or so by mistake. That was literally land we had set aside to say, here's, the buffer that we're gonna put here. So it's not we had a tree spade in there for, 2 days, literally moving trees as part of what we had to do, and bring in a whole tractor trailer load of saplings, replanting trees around the property in order to meet that criteria of what we had to do. So it's not a simple undertaking. It's a lot easier to build a road storage building in Ossipee because it's sand and it's really simple. So as I said, it's not very likely.
Judy White, Mary Sue, sorry, another question. So going along with this, Matt, so on lot 55, are you allowed to store trailers or vehicles or anything else as a residential property? Because that is abutting all of our properties.
Yeah, so the town of Tuftonboro and actually the planning board's been talking about this in great length. Vehicles are motor vehicles, if they're registered in the town of Tuftonboro, you're allowed to have them in your residential property. Now, if they're not registered, you get into a problem. If where you get into gray areas or where you get into commercial uses of storing vehicles or trailers or boats on residential property. I mean, as you guys, a lot of you guys know, I'm on the plan, but we're actually looking at the zoning of writing that right now. Does it happen all over the place? Yes. I would say, and Jack would probably agree, it's a gray area. As you know, we rented along that tree line full of park trailers there from Ray for probably about 5 years.
But, okay, so you were renting from Ray, so that's like history. But going forward, are you allowed to put trailers and shrink-wrapped winter boats on lot 55?
You unquestionably would not be allowed to store boats in a residential lot.
Okay. Are you allowed to store empty trailers on lot 55?
That's a great question, and I
Yes.
haven't figured that one out yet myself.
Okay, because other people here are also concerned about the traffic flow from that property through our neighborhood.
Oh, in the rear?
Yes, correct. Which
I-
is past my house and,
Yeah,
their
so
house.
I think the easiest answer to that is there's one access point through the back.
yes.
Before we owned this other piece of property, we had part of what they wanted was a farm gate installed on the property. My intention is, as soon as the the ground unthaws, is to take the gate and move it to the rear along the property line right there
Mhm.
and to close it. And I don't really want my guys or driving through there. It's only gonna create problems for me. The fire department has to maintain access, it was a requirement they had.
Oh, so I just wanted to be.
I don't have any intentions of having trucks and trailers rolling through Mary Sue Terrace. We see a lot of trucks and trailers rolling through Mary Sue Terrace.
I'll a little bit, I live in Madison, but the boats and the trailers do come on the yard. I mean, that's gonna cease, it's gonna stop altogether?
I'm gonna put a gate there. Believe me, my guys are not ambitious, they're not gonna get off the tractor and open the gate.
It's not a no.
So they're not gonna,
It's not a no.
We'll open it because we have to plow through there, but, that's not it.
Yes.
I'm Jill Cromwell, again, Lake Lane's End. I just have a question about if this gets approved to be, the different use of this business zone, what are you allowed to do without coming to get the next level permit when you decide to pave it and all that? Like, can you cut some of that grade out? Can you put in lighting? Can you put a sign up, even though he doesn't intend to now? What is allowed without coming to another hearing where the abutters could have us, input into that?
Any changes that he makes beyond this point, we'd have to come back to the planning board.
Any of those things.
Anything, he's not asking for any changes to the
I
project.
understand that, I just wanted to clarify.
Anything beyond routine maintenance?
He'd be allowed to cut the lawn, and that's about it.
You could reseed a lawn, you could, cut a dead tree, you could, I don't know, that's about it. General routine things.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Jack? Steve?
Close. So I'm a little apprehensive. This is Steve Hunter. I live on Number 9 Road. I'm not on a butter. I could actually care less what he does on the property. I'm a little apprehensive about speaking because I don't want to feed the hatred that the applicant has towards myself, but I just think that I've been to a lot of planning board meetings in the last year or so, and when he says he's not gonna do this and he's not gonna do that, a year ago, numerous meetings, he kept saying, as soon as ice is out in the spring, I'm gonna step down as a board member or the chair of the board, blah, blah, blah. That's never happened since ice out 2019, so.
Steve, get to the point. Please.
I'm gonna take my time, because I wanna get it right.
Okay.
So, I thought it was very interesting that when somebody comes before the board with an application and Matt's the chairman, he does a very diligent job as to crossing the Ts and dotting the Is and et cetera, et cetera. And he had an informal discussion 2 weeks ago with a photo that he happened to find that showed, that was taken 12 years ago, and it didn't show his new boat storage shed, and it didn't show any boats in his dooryard or anything like that. And the survey that he's showing tonight doesn't show any of that because it was done approximately 10 years ago by the abutter, not himself. So I just find that the transparency is a little bewildering to me at the same time. And and just a couple times in the past year on when he sat there as a chair to the board and you've approved applications from other people, I'll just give you a couple examples. Was just down the street a little ways, I think it's 405 Governor Wentworth Highway. The gentleman has a little business that he does environmental repairs and septic systems and stuff like that. And because they had one abutter that was concerned about what the gentleman had for boats and, equipment, etc. The planning board required him to put up a fence screening along two sides of his property for screening so that you wouldn't see those areas. So I'm just wondering if we're gonna be consistent in that regard. Another one that very much concerned me was you had one down here on 155 Middle Road for a barn sale. The lady had to come before the board for site plan review. And you went through it and discussed a lot of things and decided that you would approve it with certain conditions. And you discussed the conditions, and one of them was she didn't have her sign located on the map, she didn't have her north arrow on the map. There were 4 conditions similar to that. So Matt made the motion to approve the site plan review with these conditions. And he went through the 4 conditions that the board had discussed, and the applicant was discussing it with him. And then at the tail end of it, he added the fifth condition be that every night when she closed shop, she put everything away. And the board voted for it without any discussion. So I thought that was very interesting. And now he's gonna, I don't think he's probably gonna put these pontoon boats away, but he might. So I'm just curious if some of that stuff would be relevant here. I kind of also interested with the traffic study that somebody talked about. He said he didn't need it. I believe that those pontoon boats come in on a tractor trailer truck, so unless you're gonna have them delivered to Ossipee and bring them over one at a time, they'd either have to use your showroom area to unload, or they'd have to unload in the street to get them there, because you won't get a tractor trailer truck up that driveway. And then my final comment is, I'm not sure, we talk about conflict of interest in different people here. I'm not sure that you have a real quorum up there with Tony's wife having always worked for Matt. Laureen's boats up there, she's a client of Matt's, and Gary's up there, and Gary's his assistant while he's on the board and stuff. So that's all your conscience, not mine, whether you people can be.
My wife has been retired here 2.5 years. No longer works in this.
I didn't say she did, I said she always did. So that's your conscience, not mine, Tony. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Frank Lansing, I live on 5 Bay Road, I'm not in the butter, but my concern is this available land is dry, abutting this wetland that feeds Mill Pond, that eventually feeds the salmon rearing Point and Fall. What prevents him, if this was granted, from driving the boat up here, washing it down, bringing it back, washing the boat up here, and let all that effluent get into wetlands and eventually into the Mill Pond?
Not, you have an area where you wash boats and it's not.
You wouldn't be allowed to do that because you would need a DES groundwater wastewater discharge, which we have, but the groundwater wastewater discharge permit by the DES is only on the main marine property.
Well, I guess my concern is whatever happens up there, what impact will it have on that wetland area?
Well, I'm not allowed to wash boats up there. So, I mean, what would happen if I brought a nuclear bomb in and set it off? I mean, it's not, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to do that. So.
Well, storage and oil leakage and whatnot, if you do that
Well, again,
down the road.
I would say that they're boats and these sit in the lake. So they literally sit in the lake. So if they're gonna have a leak, they could just as easily have a leak like the other 70,000 registered watercraft in the state of New Hampshire.
Well, you'll be bringing in more boats that are already in the lake.
I guess I don't understand. I mean, are you concerned that they're gonna have a leak when they're sitting there on the ground?
My only concern is what might happen to the wetland adjacent to Mill Pond.
Hypothetically, if a boat were to leak and discharge its entire 40 gallons of whatnot of fuel, hypothetically, the DES would be notified, the insurance company would be called, the DES would come out, they would talk with the insurance company, they would contract with a cleanup company, and the marina would be liable for everything it took to clean it up. You know, we have insurance of multiple millions of dollars just in case something like that happens. The likelihood of that happening is not particularly great, mainly because these are almost all new boats, they have no fuel in them. Some might, but it'd be rare. Two, again, they're boats that normally sit in the lake. You know, they could have a leak just as easily in the lake as they could have sitting on land, but it very rarely happens.
Okay, is there any other questions? Does the board have any other questions of Matt at this time? You're not gonna make any changes, modifications to the lighting or exterior of the building?
Just paint.
Okay. Right-of-ways or easements not gonna be changed? And I'm gonna close the public hearing.
May I have any questions, Matt?
You have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Man, I just want to recap a couple things. One, you do intend to put the gate at the back of that driveway?
Yes.
For purposes of, that's to stop traffic from going into the other neighborhood, which is a good thing. So you intend to keep the house residential usage? Okay. You're storing pontoon boats there to show, to sell. You'd like to use your garages or barn to store mowing equipment, other equipment that's used to maintain your property.
Yeah.
You got a driveway permit, you're set with that. Tuftonboro Fire Department has looked at the property.
I did a walkthrough with the Tuftonboro Fire Department, and you have a letter in the file, and I also had a verbal conversation with the chief of police, and he had no concerns.
What are your hours of operation now?
Hours of operation for the showroom are 9 to 5 in the summer, and in the winter, they are actually 8 to 6.
Is that 7 days during the summer?
7 days. Unfortunately.
Okay, so hours don't change with storage of boats or show boats?
I mean, in the busier seasons, they may be there till 7.
I mean, you guys start at 7 and end at 6 typically.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see a lot of activity at the marina as far as us working past 7 o'clock ever.
Mary brought up the point about the septic system. Is that,
To be honest with you, I know nothing about the septic system. If the septic system is, you know, we use it and it's got a problem, I'm just gonna replace the septic system. So,
But how are we going to identify if there's an issue? Like, are you gonna have that inspected at this point?
I didn't really have any intentions of that, but I'm pretty good at knowing when a septic's all done. It's usually pretty obvious. I mean, I'm not going to have effluent running into the river. I mean, it's just.
Would you ask Karen to estimate how much it might cost?
To do septic, it's probably about 10,000,
How much does that line cost to change?
at least 6,000.
So if you would sign off saying you wouldn't build any buildings any higher than that line, that might make some of us feel better. But I know that that's not what you're asking for now. I understand that that's not what we're talking about. But I'm talking about the future when you get special exception for another storage building, you're gonna put one up. You know you are. There's a lot of money in that. Change the line.
If I change that line,
Public hearing's closed.
Public hearing is closed.
Didn't get closed. No, he was about to when he got interrupted.
Well, it's closed now.
Yeah, well, I get that.
Make this up.
Just asking a question.
Holy crap. There's still some concern, see.
Okay,
You know, are you, has it passed your bedtime? I mean,
no, it's not.
What if you approve this,
We
what's our
closed-
recourse?
we
Because
closed
none of
the
us are
public
happy
hearing.
with what's going on.
That's my point.
There's too many
Yeah.
questions still left unanswered. So if you go ahead and approve
I
this part
asked
of it.
if there was any other questions, no one stood up now, and I closed the public hearing. Now, if you want me to reopen that, Leanne, can I reopen it? I'll
I'm
reopen the
fine
public
with
hearing.
that.
Anybody have any questions?
If in fact this gets approved, as a butters, what's the recourse? Because I'm not 100% sure that this doesn't just leave the door open for future use of that back of 55 that abuts the resident, our area, our neighborhood.
You could.
Why can't you just do the line, the boundary line adjustment?
Because it changes nothing. It literally changes nothing.
It doesn't change it.
But to answer your question, the recourse is you can appeal a decision to either the zoning board of appeals, or you can appeal it to Superior Court, depending on how you would structure the appeal. So you have 30 days after the decision to appeal.
How long do you have to make your decision?
Well, we're gonna review the waivers tonight. So the board's willing, we'll review them and vote on them. And then we'll, and say, if the board is willing, we'll approve it
Tonight?
tonight, yes.
So you understand the appeal, did you understand that? The appeal, if you decide to do that, would appeal to the ZBA, okay? Because they're the ones that created the zone. We don't create zones. All right, so, and if our decision is based upon that, that's how that would go. If it was based upon something else, then you could appeal it to court. Okay, that would be a court case.
I mean, I guess in the end, we all live in the town. I mean,
Could you speak up, please?
I guess in the end, we all live in the town. I mean, I am not asking for anything in the back of this property to go and, build anything. I highly doubt I will. I'm not gonna say that would never happen, because you never know what happens. It's just the 320 feet off of Route 109 to put boats on it. And somewhere, in the next year and a half, I will come back and you will get another letter for some bluestone parking lots and some retention ponds to take care of the water and whatever the engineers drive. That's exactly what this is. This is nothing other than that. I mean, I'm not gonna stand here and lie to you guys and tell you, geez, I'm trying to sneak this one by because I care more about my reputation in town than I do about any boat storage building. I might be trying to sneak through in some weird way. This has nothing to do with a boat storage building. This has nothing to do with building a boat storage building down the line. If I ever wanted to do that, I have to go to the zoning board, which everyone would get a notice. I have to prove criteria. And then I have to make that all work within the zoning, the DES, and everything else. I mean, it's a long road. It's not a simple process. I'm not trying to do any of that. I am simply trying to take from Route 109, 320 feet in on that property, put boats on them, and sell them. That's,
No offense, but just the fact that you know all that about it means you've studied it, looked into it. Why should we feel like it's not gonna happen?
well, I've done it numerous times, I mean, vet buildings, and I'm the planning board
Okay.
chair, so I know about it, I can't help that, I just
Well, I
do.
understand that, I understand, there's a lot of money in it, we all know that. So for you to exclude it it wouldn't make sense. I mean, you should consider it, it's money.
I'm not asking for anything besides 320 feet in from the road, nothing else.
I wouldn't feel good if I hadn't made my comments, that's all, I understand what you're asking. Just trying to defend my legacy, that's all. I don't blame you for trying to grow your business, not in the least.
Are there any additional comments at this time?
Robert Crayon, 2 and 3 High Street. You had talked about earlier that there's no ordinance in town for boat trailers on residential property, and that the planning board is going to look at that in the future.
Yes.
I'd ask that you give that a very critical eye, because I looked directly at that lot, and I'll tell you, you look at the 12 public boat launches up in Lake Winnipesaukee, and there's not ample parking for anyone. So we're looking at a very protected area, the waterfall area. It's the most scenic area in Melvin Village. And I, for one, Matt's a stand-up guy, does a good job. I don't want to look at the boats. I don't want to look at the trailers. Be really careful when you look at that, because if you open up that can of worms, and the sky's the limit.
Well said.
I will say that there's going to be quite a few discussions on storage and outdoor storage for the planning board in the future, and if anyone has interest, please attend the meetings, because everyone's invited.
There's been an enormous amount. This is a folder that's the second folder on our conversations on storage. And
It's a huge problem.
we're very serious about storage in this town. And,
I grew up in Guilford, and you know, the boat launch there, the boat trailers and cars are up and down the road.
Yeah.
Just because there's no place, unless you were a Guilford resident, there's no place for you to, so because the lot is available and a lot of it is flat, there is a wetlands portion of it, and there has been, the precedent's been set that there have been trailers and boats that have been stored on the residential lot over the last 5 years. I think we need to be very careful.
Yeah, no, we understand. We appreciate your comment, too. Yeah. And we're concerned about it also.
That's property values too.
It is.
We all have an investment in the Melvin Bay and the river. So, you know, I understand that business is business, but we all have upwards of millions of dollars invested in our properties as well. So please be cognizant.
Matt, do you have a number, like a maximum number of boats that you anticipate would be put to bed?
I mean, looking at the, you know, how it lies right now, you know, the space that's there, I mean, I'm just estimating, just looking at it, because I haven't tried to put anything there. I would guess in that area, you could probably park about 30 boats. I mean, could be more, could be less.
How many?
Probably about 30 boats you could fit right there in that zone. You know, if you had 2 rows, one on either side.
Joanne Cavallaro, 10 High Street. And can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
So, just in looking where the house sits on the lot, only by the map and not from memory, I'm in the butter as well on High Street. So how many of those boats, if you're standing at the dam, will we be looking at boats? Because that lot goes pretty much right up to the dam, right?
I mean, from your house, so your house is 575 feet away from the area boats to be displayed to your front porch.
Right, but I have a direct line.
So you would be looking at the backside of, I mean, just guessing, 10 boats?
But if you're standing at the, on
The front side of 10 boats too.
if you're standing not on your property, on the other side of the boat dam,
Mhm.
are you looking at boats
You'd
Would
be right.
everybody be looking at
It-
30 votes, 20
Yeah.
votes?
Yes, is the answer.
Yes,
So
that's,
there's
my
no
point.
screening. So we go for, so is there anything that can be done? I mean, it's a very rural scenic area, as Robert pointed out. In fact, that road could even be a scenic byway for the amount of people. And it's not designated a scenic byway, but for the amount of people that go up and down it, it would be a shame to kind of lose the rural.
we're talking about High Street.
We're on High Street.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot, the road.
It is a beautiful spot, and across from the Pope Dam is a beautiful spot as well. Is there anything that can be done? I mean, bushes aren't fun, but trees, bushes,
Just leave the tree.
arborvitae.
I mean, I would, first of all, I have no intention of ever cutting that tree line there. So,
Is there a tree line right against that?
oh yeah, there's gotta be, I would say there's
It
probably,
goes downhill,
yeah,
Right.
30 yards of trees, roughly.
right next to the Pope Dam.
Yeah, on the other side of the dam.
That goes downhill.
Yeah,
Right.
it slopes down,
Yeah,
but there's about 30 yards of trees.
but
And
they
then-
don't block that. They block it some, they do block it.
Yeah, I
some.
mean, you've got, they're mature oaks and maples, so they're fairly tall, and the canopy's up tall.
Do you think, I mean, I know this doesn't need to go in a plan and it's your property, but do you foresee keeping that there?
The trees?
Yeah.
You couldn't get me to cut them.
Mhm,
I mean, they're beautiful.
mhm.
I didn't, the property is beautiful.
It is beautiful, yeah, that's why you're there.
I do not have any intention
Yeah.
of, I mean, when you look at everything else we do in town, and you look at the showroom, and you look at, I'm not gonna do it differently.
Right.
I mean, there's gonna be, when we're done, stonework and
Right.
bushes and plantings and,
Well, we like the natural beauty. So, I mean, to each his own, right, but we do like the natural beauty of that area. So, I mean, and I think a lot of people here feel the same way. So I just didn't know if you were gonna take down those trees. If you don't take down those trees, that's great. If you plant more in there, that's wonderful.
I have no intention
So
of.
the other question I had is for safety for your boats that, and I know you said there weren't going to be any lights, but are there not going to be any lights around your boat? Because we are starting to deal with, I'm just going to say it, light pollution coming from what would be the south from us, because we face Mill Pond directly on High Street. And so Mr. Everest, who owned the house before, put a spotlight on the dam, which I'm sure from Mr. Everest's point of view, it looks beautiful. But from my point of view, I see a big white light in my dining room. So,
To answer your question, and I think Bob can confirm this,
yeah.
all of those lights have been removed.
Oh, okay. That's
So,
great.
yeah, I wasn't a big fan.
Right, well, I didn't know for safety purposes, or for theft or whatever, you have your boats there, you have to put something, so.
So it's Melvin Village, they're more likely to put something in the boat than take it out of it.
Okay.
So
That's-
I don't have a
I
real, I
just
mean,
think it's good to have that conversation, you know?
yeah, I'm not a big fan of lights.
Mhm.
And when we do something, we try to make it look like Melvin Village. So you're not gonna see, other than there's gonna be boats sitting there,
Right,
it's not.
but you're not gonna see behind the trees.
Well, I won't cut the trees, but I guarantee you that I don't know what you'll see and not see,
Yeah.
but I don't,
All right.
yeah.
And I do have one other question, I'm sorry. So I know lot 55, I understand that's residential, medium density residential right now, and that there are things that cannot be stored there. You're not asking for any use changes there at all. But it sounds like there are some privileges where you could put some things, whether it's trailers or whatever. So where would those trailers be? Like right across the street from us?
They already are, actually.
Okay, so they're in the trees?
They're actually under the trees on the, there's the property line between, so there's a property line right here, and then there's an existing tree line that's right here. So,
Mhm.
and then there's a storage building here.
Mhm.
And tucked underneath these trees right here against this property line is 12 to 15 boat trailers
Yeah.
down there.
So, I mean, I know everybody here has gone up and down High Street, it's beautiful, you've seen the view from, Mary Sue, and nobody wants to be looking at even what you can put there. We really don't want to look at anything but what's there now. You can go up High Street, and my husband mentioned that there are blue heron that fly from there. There's a lot of other species, I don't know if any other studies have done, but that does change the more you encroach on it. And so it's just a point, and it's something to think about, even for you, Matt, that we just don't love seeing all that stuff. And I know you gotta do business, but if you could, do it in such a way that it doesn't, impact the neighbors, and why we're there. So that's it, that's all I want to say.
Are there any further questions? Can I close the public session of the meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? The applicant? Okay, so then it's time for us to review the waiver request.
Actually, Target last time. Yeah, and I don't want to give you a hard time, and I did have to ask those questions. I know you must be. All right, well, it's nice to meet you. Okay. Hard, but thank you. All right.
Our neighbors control. This is the other side.
Restacking all the stone walls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
I haven't been in. That's so worth the check. I mean, I can, when I was in
another sign.
My last job was
On 109.
Oh, okay, great.
At that Y.
No, it's gonna be down.
8 billion.
We just moved from Wolfram.
This is nothing. Yeah.
How's that coming?
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
And that's what it's gonna be so wild.
Yeah.
Great to meet you.
Oh, it's nice meeting you.
Take care.
I haven't seen it. I didn't see the logo.
So he's the guy who lays out those things with this.
I don't know.
Maybe just check with him.
Yeah, I'll give him a number.
Yeah, you just let me know when they're coming. He don't mind. Can you change one of these? Yeah, just let me know. Otherwise, you just be on my meeting. Great to see. We'll see you this summer. Oh, just thanks.
Hello there.
Okay, so I'll start with these.
You're gonna need a motion.
Yeah, each one of them, right? Okay. We're gonna go.
Jack just suggested something.
I had those in my old house. I couldn't do it.
Well, the first thing you're asking is that this remaining is
They can't be anything.
Norwegian species.
Yeah.
these guys are talking about adding evergreens to that tree buffer.
That's full at the bottom.
So you can't see it from high school?
Yes, exactly.
Because you can look through the trees, basically.
Well, she's got here, maintain.
Oh, it's gone.
Those trees are, you can see it pointed along here, driveway, all the way up here. That's what to be
In the 300 foot zone.
That's what you, because then it's
Do they want to add the evergreens?
certainly.
Yeah, no.
I forget what they're called. They're down in the ground.
Norwegian species do this.
There are other kinds that are built more like poplars, go all the way down, they're slender, and then stay bushy down the bottom.
But you just need to.
All of them figures.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to go into a non-public so you can have this discussion? I have
That's
the
a good
tape still
idea.
running.
Oh,
I can't hear a thing, and you're discussing the business at hand. So what do you want me to do?
We're gonna move forward now.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna consider these waivers. The first one, the following existing site plan shall be prepared by a New Hampshire licensed land surveyor or registered professional engineer, unless not appropriate for the specific project. Do I have a motion to approve?
They approved the waiver. Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Existing conditions, data B, plan of the site showing existing natural features including water courses and water bodies, trees and other significant vegetation, topographical features, and any other features which should be considered in the site design process. Proposing any changes, do I hear a motion? Point to the waiver. All in favor? Aye. Existing conditions, data C, existing grades, drainage system, structures, and topographical tours at the intervals not exceeding 2 feet with spot elevations where grade is less than 3%. He's got proposing any changes. And he's enclosed the plan of White Mountain Survey that obtained the White Mountain Survey permission to use. That he has permission to use it. Do I hear a motion to approve it? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The existing condition, dated D, the shape, size, height, and location of existing structures on the site within 200 feet of the site. He's not proposing any changes. Do I hear a motion to grant him a waiver?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Existing conditions F, man-made features such as, but not limited to, existing roads, stone walls, landscaping features, and structures indicating which of such features are to be retained and which are to be removed or altered. He's not proposing any changes. Do I hear a motion to grant him a waiver? All in favor?
Aye.
Existing conditions, dated G, abutting properties with appropriate location of structures herewith including access roads. He's not proposing any changes. Wants me to grant us a waiver. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next is condition, existing condition F. The size, location of existing utilities, including but not limited to the sewage disposal systems and utility poles located on a site within 100 feet of the site, and the location and size of existing utilities in which connection is planned. He's not proposing any changes, and he asks for a waiver. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Existing condition dated J, soil maps showing all soil types and delineating wetlands as defined by Tufton Borough zoning ordinance section 6. No, that's 11. Can I hear a motion to approve that waiver?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Proposed plans, the following site data for the proposed development shall be provided by a licensed land surveyor, professional engineer, and/or architect as appropriate, registered in the state of New Hampshire. He's not proposing any, except the provision of survey as sufficient, as these are no changes asked for proposed. Do I hear grant the waiver for that?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Proposed plans A, proposed grades, topographical contours of intervals not exceeding 2 feet with spot elevations where the grade is less than 3%. No changes. Can I ask for a motion to approve that waiver? Second.
Second.
Who vote aye?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Proposed plans B, plan view of the shape, size, height, and location of proposed structures, including expansion of other alterations of existing buildings. He's not proposing any existing changes and wants a waiver granted. He's asking for a waiver. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Second. Proposed plan C.
Aye. Need to vote?
Aye.
Very aye.
Voted to vote.
Oh, yeah.
We did.
Aye.
We then voted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aye.
We did it anyway.
The location, size, direction, travel, of appropriate curbing, paving, and grading of streets, driveways, access ways, and sidewalks within the site as relationship to the off-site street system. And he's asking for a waiver. Do I hear a motion to approve? Second. Vote.
Aye.
Proposed plan D. The size, location, layout of all on-site parking and loading facilities. Do I hear a motion to approve that waiver? Second.
Second.
Proposed plan E.
Aye.
Vote, right. The size and location of all public and private utilities, including water lines, sewage facilities, gas lines, power lines, telephone lines, fire alarm connections, and other utilities. He's not proposing any changes. Do I hear a waiver to approve? Vote to approve. So moved.
Second.
Vote.
Aye.
Proposed plans F. Storm drainage plan performed by a professional engineer registered in the state of New Hampshire, including for the retention and slow release of stormwater where necessary, together with supporting calculations. He's asking for a waiver for that. Do I hear a motion to? So move.
Second.
Vote.
Aye.
Proposed plan G, location, type, and size of all proposed landscaping, screening, as well as a plan for the retention of existing significant natural features, open spaces, green spaces, on-site. He's asking for a waiver for that. Do I hear a motion to
I
accept?
think we just did discuss screening, did we not?
mean, this is proposed plan G, it's a different one, I think. Well,
It's saying the location, type, and size of all proposed landscaping and screening. I mean,
He's not proposing.
so
He's
we
not
are.
proposing, but we
Okay.
are. We're
Yeah,
gonna,
but if we waive it, then it seems kind of silly. You see what I'm saying? If we're waiving it?
yeah, but
But then
we're
adding it back
gonna
in.
make this proposal with, that when I finish this, I'm gonna, these are the conditions that we're gonna grant, that we're gonna
Okay.
approve. So I have a waiver for that.
That's not a problem.
Okay.
Second.
Aye, right, H, that was H, this is proposed location, type and design of outdoor lighting, he's not making any changes, so. make a motion to-
skipped H?
Aye. I think we just, I thought we just
The
did.
signs?
Right, location, size, and design of proposed signs and other advertising or instructional devices, he's not proposing any changes, then I hear a motion to accept. Second, vote.
Aye.
Okay, we already did the UI already, I think that's it, isn't it?
nope, that's the,
Okay, there's more?
I don't have a motion for I.
Okay. Say what?
I don't have a motion for I. Yeah, we did.
We did.
We did?
All right, yes.
Oh, okay.
Then we have proposed plan K. Construction details including but not limited to pavement, walks, steps, curbing, drainage, structures, and erosion, and sedimentation control techniques. He's not proposing any changes. Do I hear a motion to accept the waiver?
Second.
Vote.
Aye.
Proposed plan L. Any other exhibits or data that planning board may require in order to evaluate adequately the proposed development, including but not limited to calculations related to stormwater runoff, information on the composition and quality of the wastewater generated, information on air, water, and land pollution discharge, estimates of noise generation. Not proposing any changes, do I hear a motion to accept the waiver?
So moved.
Second. Vote.
Aye.
Proposed plan M, traffic impact analysis. All proposed commercial, industrial, or residential development shall be reviewed by the planning board as assertion that adequate provisions have been made by the owner or his or her authorized agent for traffic safety. To facilitate this review, the planning board may require the developer to provide a traffic impact analysis due to the size, location, or traffic generated characteristics of the development. Traffic circulation and access, including adequacy of adjacent street and intersections, entrance and exits, traffic flow, site distance, accident statistics, curb cuts, turning lanes, and existing or recommended traffic signalization, pedestrian safety and access, off-street parking and loading, emergency vehicle access, off-site improvement necessitated and to be constructed by the developer. He's not proposing any changes. Do I hear a motion to accept this waiver? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Now, additional motions that just came to my attention, this is a condition now of the applicant. Okay, this is condition. This is condition. The applicant shall comply with local, state, and federal permits of any conditions attached here. Of any conditions attached here. Okay? Any changes, that's number one. This is number two. Any changes to the site plan as proposed will require additional site plan review and approval from the planning board. Well, I guess those two, I hear a motion to accept them and vote.
No, review all the conditions.
Oh, these are all,
And then make a
okay.
motion to approve.
The gate located at tax map 14-255 shall be relocated to the rear of the lot to prohibit traffic from coming and going. Number four, maintain existing tree line on 14-255. An applicant, well, it's not finished applicant, shall plant a tree buffer.
You guys are discussing that.
We were discussing that.
Yes. I'm looking for the
Discuss
second.
that.
Yeah, applicant shall plant a tree buffer to, I don't know, one like a big lot.
The one where, you know, where the,
It's on High Street looking. Nobody should see any boats.
the line here, along
I mean, to the best of my ability.
the
Yeah.
driveway goes in.
Okay, we want it. Now we're looking to add a tree line, a fir type tree line just outside the tree line.
Oh, the-
As you look under those trees from distance from up on the other road where they're concerned about, in viewing that, we'd like to have you add some fir-type trees to that tree line.
Sure.
No problem with it?
There are
Okay.
some
I mean, you're
kinds.
talking about in the neighborhood business portion, or
Yes.
yeah, something behind that.
Right.
There are some kinds that don't, you know, the way white pines will grow up and you can
You want like
have
blue
hemlocks or,
spruce
there's
or
some kinds that are skinny and go all the way down to the ground, they stay that way. Bushy, that
You
kind
know,
of
that he
thing.
can store his.
I mean, what do you want for spacing?
But that's probably
Just
discussion
to-
about the condition.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely the gate needs to be a condition.
Well, we
break it up.
already made that.
You know, you have to allow a certain amount of space for growth, obviously, but just
But
break
yeah, you
break
okay
it up
with
so
them
the
taxing
sight
that
lines are not.
42.1?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
well, okay, goes the area,
Right.
and to prohibit traffic from going on.
And if you've already got, I know there's the root systems of the already existing trees, so you have to look out for that too.
Yeah, last time we brought in a tree
You
spade.
gotta do the house operation easy.
Last time what?
Last time we brought in a tree spade.
Yeah, that'll do it.
The last one of the conditions that the hours of operation shall be from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days a week. All those conditions, do I hear a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
I think you said from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m.
6 p.m. I said.
Okay. You want 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
All right, not.
I said 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
And you know, at this point, I'm not sure, but we want
thought I said
7 a.m. to
7
6 p.m. That's what we're looking for.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, what's next, Ian?
We need to make a motion to either
Okay.
approve or deny, subject to the conditions of approval.
We need a motion to accept the application. To
Approve.
approve.
To move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Does anything have to be signed, Ian?
No.
Okay.
So our Airbnb is not happening?
No, he's not here.
No, he canceled that.
I do have the new board deal that was filed with the court for.
Do we need to do anything about it now?
Nope, you do
Good.
nothing.
We will just review it.
I just have to prepare the certified report. Do you want it for the file? You might want it. Okay, found that file.
Okay. What's
What's
next?
You don't want it, you're good with it?
I think we make a motion to adjourn.
Any other comments, any other business?
Tony, I have a question.
Can
I ask a question?
Yes.
Do you intend to reschedule the Airbnb? Yes.
Yes.
Any
I'll do
idea
that right
when?
now.
Yeah, we'll check the agenda, in the next meeting. I don't know if it's gonna be for the next meeting or not.
No,
No.
No, it's not. So it won't be on the 12th.
What day are we looking at, May 7th?
May, I believe it's May 7th, but can you check with the board? I don't know if the board is available.
Yeah. Are you available May 7th? Are you available May 7th?
So yes.
I'm
Yeah.
available. Are you?
Yes.
You? We're available.
7th.
May 7th.
We can hope for Bill and whoever else.
Right, Bill and Carol should be here then.
Bill and Carol, yeah, right.
Okay. Well, if there's no other business, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We're done.
Okay.
Here.
Those little